It is the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague with Avenue 9. You can find us at avenue9.com, where we help large small businesses or small, medium-sized businesses with their AI marketing strategy, the systems and tools and technology you need to set up in order to do it. And of course, the storytelling, how you get your voice and brand into all of these crazy tools, which is why we're talking to Rachel Minion again. She's been on the podcast talking about authenticity and stuff before. It was a great episode, and we wanted to bring her back to talk about how she actually built some of these systems where she can build the context around the business and help small businesses automate their marketing team without losing their voice and values and stuff. And Rachel, I want to just set this up, and you can add any more to it you'd like. Obviously, you can find her at rachelminion.com or on LinkedIn. But Rachel, the first question that comes to mind for me, I think, is there's this interesting kind of balance or maybe even a paradox that's holding these two things apart, which is AI can do a better job of marketing than most people, but it cannot do an expert job without adding the context and the strategy and stuff to it. So depending on where the listener is as they're listening to this, I feel like if you're failing at marketing and you're getting an F, you could probably just go ask ChatGPT or Claude to build you a marketing plan, and it's going to be better than what you would make up yourself. However, if you have a great marketing person on your team, or if you have a good agency, or you're looking for better than a C+, there's some work you have to do. Is that fair?
That's fair. I think there's also the level that, because as a founder, our goal is to serve the client, marketing is also the thing that's put last. So it may not be that we don't know what we're doing. It's just that we don't have time, effort, and energy to go do that, because we're now chasing down that deliverable for our client to go exceed all expectations.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot about some different tools and what's possible here. And it's going to be a nuanced discussion. This is round 2. So we're going to get a little advanced, and I'm going to go a little bit hard on some of these questions, because I think they're difficult to answer for business owners right now, which again, to me, you kind of said there, it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. So it's hard for me, even as a marketing professional, to come up with the marketing for Avenue 9, because I can't see it like the world sees it. Like somebody who has no idea what Avenue 9 is or stands for would see my business. So I think that's the challenge of just using a generic AI to be like, hey, Claude, ask me about my business and build a marketing plan, is you're the one doing the inputs, and you kind of can't get any separation there. So how would you recommend business owners tackle that part of it?
Well, one of the things that we start with is really defining that ideal client profile, because I don't care what our brand has to say until we know who we're talking to, how they like to be spoken to, what they talk about, where their pain is, where they're even going for help. Because if we don't start with that ideal client profile, nothing else matters. Our brand could be McDonald's, but it wouldn't matter if they didn't have their hungry customer who wanted a burger at a very cheap price driving up the street, right?
Yeah.
So if we can nail that down, now we can start building the next piece around it. What's the offer? So now that we know who it is, what are we going to offer to them that they care about? How do we make it differentiated from everyone else out there? How do we make it something that's compelling enough? And how do we make it something that they say, I have to have this and I have to have it now? It's just so irresistible. And if we can start building from that perspective, then we start looking at, okay, how do we want to come across as a company? How do we want to come across as an individual? Because in my language, it's about a 4th, 5th grade. I don't go above that. I refuse to. I also don't speak like that. It doesn't matter. Big words are just not my thing. They've never been. So how do we make all of this feel really congruent and then bring that together in a holistic package? And that becomes your knowledge base for everything built off AI.
Yeah, I love that. It actually matches exactly my A9 factor framework. Starts with like your authenticity, your audience, and your offer, and all of those have to be kind of explicit and specific as possible, in order to build the context to do any of the other stuff. Because then that's what gives you like the framework to make all the other decisions around, particularly for the strategy. And I think the thing people miss here with AI is that the T in GPT stands for transformer. And it's really good at transforming your message, your thoughts into something else. So it can kind of pretend to be anybody. You could have it say like, hey, I'm selling to, you know, aging owners of plumbing businesses who are looking to sell their business. Then like, okay, if you're a plummet exit or M&A person, like this is your target audience. Pretend to be this aging plumber and ask me questions that you would ask from that. And it's really good at pretending somebody to be somebody else, even if we aren't. So then we can ask that, get like persona strategies, and we can start building out stuff for different things. And humans have a tough time holding multiple thoughts in their head at the same time, but AI can do that pretty easily and switch personas back and forth. So I think that's a pro level tip. And then as we move to step 2 and we talk about the systems for these things, I feel like a lot of people are still in this is easier said than done, but you've built automations, machines, Claude skills, and everything to basically automate your entire business. Yep. I'm assuming that as any marketing professional, you're at least technically aware, if not technically savvy. Would you say like you're a programmer, tech nerd and stuff, or was this self-taught, learned, like asking Claude to help guide you along? How did it go?
Let me give you an idea of who I am, and this will make you laugh a little. So when all the first design programs first came out, we had Corel Draw, right? We had Illustrator, we had Quark, we had PageMaker. My dad had all these programs for the company that he ran. And so I went downstairs in high school and I'm starting to figure them out, because why would I ever want to handwrite a paper to turn that in? Let me just do it in PageMaker, because that made sense. Or for college, I always had some version of this. And mind you, this was just when the internet is coming out. So it isn't. I was going
to say, you're already showing our age with PageMaker and Quark, but that's okay. Yeah.
100%.
This is before like spell check here. Yeah.
It was before spell check. And so I learned all of these things because I want to get in there and I just want to press buttons. I am not a person who is a developer. I am not a programmer, but I am the ultimate breaker. So I'm going to get in and start typing to chat and say, I want to do this, this, and this. No, you're stupid. Do this instead. Nope, this isn't what I said. And finally, it all kind of comes together for me in a way that I can visualize and understand. And I've done this with chat. I've done this with so many of these different programs because I want to understand the depth and the breadth without somebody telling me.
Yeah.
I just don't believe
I think you have to. Yeah, well, you have to explore a little bit to find out what it's capable of and what it's not capable of, and that's where I kind of came to my realization of that, like that kind of C+ idea is that like when I was using it for other stuff, I'd say this is pretty good, and then when I'd use it for marketing, I would say this isn't very good, and it took me 2 years to realize, oh, you idiot, the other stuff isn't very good either. That's just the magic trick, and like you don't have enough like domain knowledge in there to know that it's doing the magic trick. But when I ask it about marketing or other stuff or have it write stuff, then I can see kind of behind the curtain there. But I also have done what you've done. And I think like with the technology is people don't understand that you now have a tool that can teach you how to use the tool. So they just go, I don't know how to make a Claude skill. And you just ask Claude how to make a Claude skill and it will tell you all about it. And you can say, well, I don't know what to make one for. What are the most common ones? Or, use everything you know about my business to tell me which Claude skill would be the best one for me to use. And so you have this like, consultant who we're going to give a C+ still. Like you might want to hire Rachel or I if you're going to do it for real. But you can ask it, and it'll give you really good guidance on how to do it. And then if you stick with it and figure it out and fail and move forward, and you're not trying to move too fast, you can really make progress in a short amount of time. Now, it might not be minutes like people promise on, LinkedIn or in the YouTube videos, but in 3 to 6 months, if that's what it took for you to learn and automate your business and save $100,000, would that be worth it for you?
Well, so here's the crazy part. I log all my time. What am I doing for each thing? Because I have all the projects, I have all the tasks, I have everything in there. So I just plugged it into my task management system and I said, hey, how am I spending my time and what do I need to automate? And it gave me the entire list of here's our quick hits that's going to get you back an hour a week. And I was like, cool, let's do that first. Then it's like, okay, here's the thing that's going to be more intensive that we need to get off your plate because you shouldn't be doing this. Okay, great. Let's try that next. And instead of me trying to do what everyone else said, oh, it's just write down what you're doing from this block of 10 minutes to this block, I already had it in the system. And it showed me how wrong I was and how I spent my time.
I think that's a really good place to start. I wanted to be more specific about that, though. I think I remember from last time you started in kind of like production stuff, right? And then you moved out to other roles like, assistants or other like kind of strategy and more complicated things. Can you tell me more about that process? Did I get that right?
Yep. So I started with project management because that was the person that I had lost on my team. And I rebuilt my entire business from the ground up. So one of the things that she was doing is, does everybody have the right amount of work? Is the workload balanced? All of those things. Are the tasks in the system? Are they written up with the right strategy there? How does that happen? So first thing I did was I connected, we have Read AI that goes on and records every single call that I have. I connected that. So now I have an interpreter that then pushes out all the tasks. And now all the tasks are created automatically after I approve them. The approval is the key part because it will create a lot of tasks that just don't exist. You have to look at it and approve.
Yeah, great point.
And then it had a link to the transcript. So now everyone in my team could be able to go look at the transcript for what are we talking about and how does that need to be positioned? And all the other reference material is right there because we talked about it on the call, which is now in the task. So from there, I was looking at what my admin was doing. And every month I found there were problems in the reporting that he was pulling. And then there was problems in this. And every month I'm looking at the reports and it just doesn't make any sense. So next step was, how do I automate all the reporting? And how do I make sure that it is correct and that it's actionable and intelligent in what's coming back to me? Because it now has a basis and it can do a quick data analysis that I'm not asking for statistical analysis that's way far down that we need an expert for. I just want the basics. Are we doing better? Are we doing worse? Are we hitting our goal?
Yeah. I think all of that is really good. And it's to tie it back to marketing. And again, like my A9 factor framework, I look at if for your marketing tasks, there's a few things here that you need to get right, which is what channel are you making stuff for? And based on, what you like to make or where your audience is hanging out in that first part, we can kind of do the same thing you were doing with your time and say like, hey, where's our biggest impact? What channel, what content, what conversion architecture here could work? And then like, let's do the biggest things first, like you said. So if we know, all of our audience is on YouTube, well, let's start making YouTube videos. Let's not worry about like the email blast or whatever, because that's just adding more noise. And then we can talk about kind of what do we need to personalize, like the individual tasks and things to get that done and start breaking it into smaller pieces. So I like that when you're setting up these systems, I think it's still intimidating for people is where I go. But the idea is to make these things simpler, easier to maintain. Like, I don't think people understand the Claude skills, how easy it is. Like you only have to do it once or explain what you want once and then just say, make a skill to do that every time I ask you for a blog post. I want you to use this style, this audience, this notes, and like go through this process, or ask me these series of questions about the blog in order to get the context you need. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's going to go into ghostwriter mode and it's going to ask me all the questions it needs to create that. And they're easier to set up than people think when you break them down into the smaller things, and you get those big pieces right.
And my pro tip is don't just create the skill, because you're never going to read that and understand what it's doing. Have it also create a process document for you. So then you can look from one to the other and just make sure that that process document is exactly what you want, because it's written in English we would understand. It's written so simply that we know, hey, I have skill A and I have skill B. Let me look really fast to see what the difference is between them and which one should I be running.
Yeah, and I think we both kind of skipped the conversion part, or tying these pieces together, which is a big deal, because that also has to lead somewhere. Like making content just to make content doesn't help you. But same thing of like making a report or a skill that doesn't connect to another skill or doesn't go to that project management software still creates a lot of manual work. So you want a little bit, you still have to review it. For me, I still read every blog post. I watch every short clip and stuff, and make sure I'm just not putting slop or weird things out there. I'm sure same thing with you and the workflows and stuff. You want to make sure that each one is good. But the part I heard you say, and like people, I think I could be reading into it, but I think people kind of glaze over when you say, oh, I just connect read AI. They're like, I don't know what read AI is. I don't know how to connect anything. But again, you just probably asked Claude, how do I connect like this integration to this integration?
Well, and I did this before the integration existed. So what I did is I believe in having a note taker on my call. I used to pay a person to sit on the call, but the person could not get all the details of every single thing that had to happen and relay that effectively, because the game of telephone doesn't work. We've proven that 100 times. So I got a note taker. Note taker is fabulous because it not only has for me the video, it has the action items that it outputs automatically. And then it has the whole transcript. So there's so many different pieces that are searchable. And before any of this was able to be connected, I just had it output the transcript, put it in my Google Drive, and then everyone has access to it and go search for this, because here's what's being talked about word for word.
So that takes me to the next bucket of stuff that I talk about a lot, which is kind of the scalable storytelling, or the context engineering here. And again, you can use it for your business. You can use it for internal meetings and projects. You can use it for AEO and SEO. You can use it for any type of marketing content. But I think what people miss is you captured that story first. You capture the transcript. So you have to be recording internal sales meetings, calls with customers, calls with prospects, like sales brainstorming sessions, your offsites. Like just capture all of it, because then you have the like story and the context, and then you can create some sort of like circles or bubbles around it, or have AI tell me like, what are the common themes, what are the common personas here. Now that you've heard 17 sales calls, what is common about our prospects, or are we missing quality or quantity, or all kinds of things that you can add to it once you capture that data. But that's a big part of the process there. Where do you go after? You mentioned a little bit with the notes and stuff, but how do you think about like building the brand voice, getting the right information in, and the context from all of these documents?
Well, what's been really cool is I have also been doing more sales calls. So I take all my transcripts from the sales calls, I pop them in and say, does our marketing match what's being talked about on the sales call? Does it match the pain? Does it match the discovery? Are we even close? And it is painful when you start reading the answers and when it says, no, you are so far off, or you're getting close, but these aren't the words your prospect has been using. And there's patterns that we as humans will never pick up, but it being there in black and white in front of you and saying, oh, they're all saying this. We know this. I just need to now go implement it. And I think for me, it's that pattern recognition that it does so quickly that helps us get better faster.
Yeah, it's huge. And I just can't stress that enough. If you're not capturing conversations in your business, you're not mining for the golds. You're just leaving money on the ground and it's disappearing into the ether every time you hang up the phone or leave the even a face-to-face meeting and stuff. I've been trying to do more face-to-face meetings, which I think is great. I found that most people I talk to are trying to use AI in their business, so they're happy to like set a phone call recorder on the table, even at lunch, and say like, "Hey, we're gonna talk about some things. Neither one of us want to take notes, and we're not gonna remember what happened by the time we get back to the office. So like, let's just you hit one button on the phone, and the app will record everything for you and take notes and send summaries to everybody. It's worth doing even in meetings and stuff that aren't specifically being recorded because there's goals there. There's a lot there.
Well, and how many times have
So
we all
then I
sat
want to
in
talk about,
meetings? Sorry.
yeah,
How many times have we all
go
sat in
ahead.
meetings? Action items are flying left and right, and you miss something. And that one little thing is probably the key to everything else working. And just having something there to back you up, no matter how amazing you are at taking notes, it's everything.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, but it's one of those kind of human biases that we don't realize because it's the way we're done. But if you drop a task, it is probably because it was like insignificant in your mind or your role, and you're being biased about what your job was. So this was for somebody else, and everybody thought it was for somebody else. And so that's why it got dropped. Or it's the one that's uncomfortable and nobody wants to do. And that's the one is like, I've spent 15 years as a business coach. It's the thing you don't want to do that is the one you're not writing down. Nobody's like, "Oh, I'm going to be the one to make cold calls this week." That's how great is that? Like this will be fun. Let me put this on my to-do list. That's always the one that's people like, that would really help our business. Someone should go do that. And
Mhm.
everybody passes
Oh,
the buck on. So having AI that's independent and agnostic here capture that and say, "Hey, you still need to assign somebody to this uncomfortable task" is really valuable.
yeah. I think the neatest
So my
part.
last question for you here, I wanted to move forward because I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you um, about kind of the results and the output. So after you've set up all of these systems, then what happens? Like, what's the result? Like, I think a few things can happen. One, you can be a frantic marketing director that both you and I work with, who's like a one-person team, and it's like, great, I created 17 sub agents, but now I have 17 AI employees to manage, and I got a day job to do. How do you handle it from there? Or like, since you've automated your business, what are the benefits, results, kind of like lessons learned on the other side of this?
So at the beginning, it's frustrating. It is frustrating more than I even have words to describe. It is just walking through mud and you're drowning because the outputs aren't correct. You're not getting what you want. But as you start going and you're training these things, it gets smarter, it gets sharper, it gets better, and that knowledge base keeps growing. So every new blog, everything that you're creating, it's expanding that. So it knows what you like and what you don't. And that was just the first step, right? Getting through the ick. And then watching production go. It's right now something that has been so much easier for me. I've had employees for years that could come in, but learning that entire knowledge set for an industry after industry after industry, we work with 5 different industries. They cannot be industry experts. They would pick one and they could go with that depth and breadth. But the fact that I have the ability to grow all the different agents and have them be experts in their fields for what we're going to talk about for each of my clients, for all the different messaging, it's changed the game for my business. It's given me the ability for the first time ever since I've gone full time to take a vacation where I could turn everything off because it was still running. Things are still being produced, waiting for me to review it all. But I didn't get called, "Hey, I'm not quite sure what this meant," or "Hey, we have a problem on this. Can you just go?" No, it didn't happen. Things just went smooth for the first time in such a long time. And it wasn't that I didn't have an amazing team. It just was always a roadblock or a bottleneck that I became.
Yeah, I think all of that is really cool. Great lessons and good experience for people. And then you've been able to hone this well enough to offer it to your clients as Rockstarr AI, with 2 R's, by the way. If you were looking for a Rockstarr and Moon online, or just go to rachelminion.com and you'll find her there. It's easier to spell. It's like the movie, The Minions. And so tell us about that. Tell us about Rockstarr AI and how like this output would work for them. How we can help the people listening.
Yep. So we have aimed to do the same thing that I've done for my business for each of my clients' businesses. And that's give you a marketing department in a box that is built on my strategy, that's built on my frameworks, that's built on your knowledge base. That's the key part. So it's going to be your voice. It's going to be everything that it can learn about you, know about you, how you speak, how you talk, how you write, all of that in one place. And that will run in the background and be able to not only get you out of the way as the bottleneck in marketing, but be able to keep rolling to grow your business. And then there's also strategy in there on, hey, I'm looking to do this. Well, not only do you get to talk to Rachel AI that's in there, but then you have strategy calls with us and we go through that together on, are we getting to our goals? Is this really the right thing? And how do we get from A to B for your target market?
Yeah, I think that is awesome. And far as Avenue 9 goes, I really think my superpower, like being in radio and interviewing celebrities and rock stars themselves, or even just founders and salespeople, and trying to do good discovery, is being able to ask those questions. A lot of people, like I said earlier, just can't tell their story themselves, and so I can come in and interview you and help you create those scalable stories, or interview your clients. I've been doing a lot of testimonial work lately, and it's great. And people just, they don't know what question to ask, or they've never done it before. And I've done over 1,000 podcast interviews. So I know, like, let's talk about this. Or let's go deeper there. There's some meat on the bone there. Like, let's figure out what that is, and spend some time really helping you hone the stories that then you can turn over to the AI tools like the Rockstarr AI that Rachel's made, and say, okay, this is great. We've captured the good stuff. We've made it. And I'm doing that, helping a guy write a book right now. I'm just interviewing him once a week, and then using that context to like build the chapters. Or I've interviewed founders for onboarding courses and stuff. So maybe it's not even your marketing, it's an internal thing. And you go, you know what? I just need to capture this founder story, these missions and values, and be able to do that. Once we've got the story from you, it's really easy to use AI to create the media. So if that sounds like fun, go to avenue9.com. If you want to find Rachel, go to rachelminion.com. Check her out on LinkedIn. Good follow there as well. Rachel, thanks for being on the show. And everybody else, good luck. Keep going. Have fun. Bye.